The chamber of the Galactic Council had never been this silent. Representatives from 100 worlds, scaled, furred, feathered, silicon-based, energy-based, leaned forward as the human broadcast connected. The Council's declaration of war had gone out scarcely a minute earlier, and already the interstellar networks were flooded with speculation. The humans would beg, surely, threaten, perhaps, posture, panic, something recognizable, something predictable. But when President Aria Vale appeared in the holographic projection, she offered none of those comforting behaviors. Her expression was calm, serene, almost amused. A subtle smile, human in its simplicity, terrifying in its confidence, curved across her lips. She rested her clasped hands on her desk, the gesture measured, deliberate. Her eyes, unblinking and unwavering, stared directly into the Council's main broadcast lens, as though she were looking through the screen and into the soul of every species watching. "I see," she said quietly, the words carrying the weight of someone who had expected the declaration long before it came. Murmurs erupted around the chamber. The Lorthak representative thrashed all four of its tendrils in agitation. The crystalline Vesenth delegate flickered with emotional heat. Even the stoic Vothun, whose species had once conquered 7 star clusters without raising their pulsing heart rates, gave an involuntary tremor. President Vale did not raise her voice. She didn't need to. For the record, humanity regrets that it has come to this. We have offered dialogue, understanding, cooperation. And yet, you choose fear. The Council Chair Elder Vryn of the Earth Conclave tapped a clawed finger impatiently. "Humans, your violation of the Treaty of 9 Arms is destabilizing. Your technological acceleration is threatening the balance of the galaxy." Vale's smile deepened, not mocking, not hostile, but knowing. Balance or control? The words struck like a seismic tremor. A few council members bristled. One slammed a tentacle on the floor hard enough to crack the stone. Yet the human president remained composed, her voice steady, as if the outrage washing over the chamber were nothing more than a gentle breeze. "Your declaration of war is accepted," she said softly. Chaos erupted. The translation systems struggled to process simultaneous shouting across dozens of languages. Council guards surged into defensive postures. Several members demanded the broadcast be cut immediately. But the humans had anticipated this moment. President Vale continued calmly, overriding every attempt to mute her. "Before you proceed," she said, "you should know this. Humanity has been preparing." She leaned forward ever so slightly, enough for the cameras to catch the faint gleam in her eyes. "We were never naive about the Council's intentions, and we have taken steps, precautions, that ensure our people's safety." A ripple of dread spread through the chamber like a tide involuntarily drawn toward a distant gravitational well. "What steps?" Elder Vryn demanded, voice cracking. Vale's smile widened just enough to be unnerving. "You'll find out soon." And then she ended the transmission, leaving the entire galaxy trembling at the meaning behind humanity's calm, knowing smile. Panic spread through the Galactic Council's war chambers like a viral code infecting every data line. Holoscreens lit up with incoming reports, none of them comforting. Fleet commanders shouted over one another. Strategy AI cores flickered, unable to reconcile the president's cryptic warning with any known human capability. Humans were clever, yes, unpredictable, certainly, but prepared. Prepared enough to speak with that smile? Impossible. Or so they thought. Admiral Threx of the Vok-Rune Dominion slammed a taloned fist onto the tactical table. "We deploy immediately. Humans bluff. That's what they do. Their theatrics mean nothing." But the Council's senior strategists knew better. Humans bluffed, yes, but they also built. Quietly, rapidly, and always with intent. What came next, however, was beyond even humanity's reputation. The first reports arrived from the frontier. A scout frigate dispatched to the Aldaran border vanished from all quantum tracking. Not destroyed, gone, as if swallowed by the void. Minutes later, 3 more scouts disappeared. Then an entire sensor lattice failed, its entire network going dark in perfect, synchronized silence. Council analysts scrambled, pulling data apart, searching for clues. "It's a mass cloaking field. No, a gravitational anomaly. Impossible. No known species can—" But the evidence was undeniable. Something was happening at the edges of human space. Something large, something deliberate. Chairperson Vryn paced across the chamber, her crystalline armor plates rattling. "What is the official designation of these anomalies?" A young analyst, trembling, answered. "Ma'am, they match the earliest reconnaissance logs connected to the rumored human project, the one we dismissed as disinformation." Vryn's eyes narrowed. "Which project?" "The Aegis Initiative." Silence hit the chamber like a meteor. Everyone knew the rumors. Whispers about a classified Terran program aimed at manipulating space-time itself. The Council had always assumed it was human exaggeration, a combination of misdirection and paranoia. Now those assumptions felt dangerously optimistic. On the other side of the stars, humanity's outposts lay eerily quiet. Once bustling colonies dimmed their energy signatures to nearly zero. Orbital traffic ceased. Civilian channels fell silent, replaced by encrypted bursts so complex that even the Council's ancient supercomputers couldn't decode them. Entire planets seemed to hold their breath. From the shadows, human ships moved, sleek silhouettes gliding between darkened asteroid belts, their engines producing no detectable emissions. They drifted toward pre-designated points across the frontier, forming a silent pattern only they understood. The Aegis Initiative was already in motion. Not with weapons, not with fleets, but with infrastructure. Massive, invisible, continent-sized machinery anchored to space-time itself, and every activation pulse echoed deeper into the void. Back in Council space, Admiral Threx watched the growing list of anomalies with mounting dread. "They're doing something," he growled. "Something we can't detect." Chairperson Vryn gave a low, trembling exhale. "No, they've already done it." Because now the Council recognized the terrifying truth. Humanity hadn't disappeared because they were afraid. They disappeared because they were preparing the battlefield before the Council even realized one existed. The Council's Grand Armada emerged over the Sol system in a blaze of warp signatures, a tidal wave of alloy and antimatter spanning millions of kilometers. Thousands of ships, dreadnoughts, carriers, siege platforms arrived with the fury of a galaxy behind them. Their engines burned white-hot. Their weapons thrummed with gathered power. The invasion was meant to be overwhelming. It was meant to be decisive. Instead, it became the most silent moment in recorded history. At first, everything appeared normal. Commanders barked orders, targeting arrays locked onto Earth and its orbital defenses. War AIs calculated firing solutions. Then something subtle went wrong. The flagship, Orith's Judgment, attempted to adjust formation. Its engines flickered once, then died.
The crew scrambled, slamming controls, rerouting power, invoking emergency overrides. Nothing responded. It was as if the engines had forgotten how to ignite. Across the fleet, one ship after another went still. Weapons stopped charging, shields collapsed, communications degraded into static. Ships drifted, powerless, like toys suspended in a frozen sea. "What is happening?" Admiral Threx roared, mandibles quivering. A technician's voice cracked as he answered, "Admiral, it's not malfunction. Something external is suppressing our systems." Suppressing? No, rewriting. Sensors finally stabilized long enough to reveal the impossible. A shimmering lattice, nearly invisible, encircled the entire system. A mesh of quantum anchors woven through space-time like threads in a cosmic loom. The Aegis Initiative wasn't a single device. It was a structure, a cage built at the level of reality itself, and the Council's fleet had flown straight into it. Silence deepened as an object appeared on long-range scans. No, not an object, a formation. Human ships, thousands, phasing into existence with a grace that defied physics. They seemed to slide out of folded pockets of space, their hulls gleaming with strange geometries that absorbed and distorted light. Not bulky war cruisers, not traditional destroyers. These were something new, something built under the Council's nose, something the Aegis Initiative had been hiding for decades. They moved into formation without a sound, each taking a position around the immobilized fleet. Their patterns were deliberate, precise, predatory, but they didn't fire. Not a single shot. The message was clear. We could destroy you, instantly, effortlessly, but we choose not to. The Council's war AI, normally cold and calculating, flagged the situation with a rare classification: existential disadvantage. There was no path to victory. There wasn't even a path to resistance. A new transmission override, human in origin, cut through the static. A hologram flickered to life on every enemy bridge, every view screen, every neural interface. President Area Vale appeared once more. Calm, composed, still smiling. "Council forces," she said gently. "You have entered protected territory." Her voice resonated with the authority of someone who had planned this moment years in advance. "We won't harm you, but your war ends here." Behind her, Earth remained untouched, serene, brilliant, and impossibly defended. And the Council realized the terrifying truth. The battle was over, before they even arrived. Humanity had already won.
For a long, breathless moment, no one in the frozen Council armada spoke. Across 1,000 immobilized bridges, crews held their breath, waiting for humanity's judgment. Would Earth unleash whatever unimaginable force powered the Aegis Initiative? Would they wipe out the armada as a warning? Or worse, take control of it? But President Aria Vale simply folded her hands, the same calm posture she had shown in her first broadcast. "You came expecting fear," she began, her tone unexpectedly soft. "You came expecting chaos, desperation, or surrender. Instead, you met preparation. And now you're wondering, why?" Admiral Threx bared his fangs. "If you intended mercy, why disarm us?" Vale raised an eyebrow. "Because you declared war.
We have a responsibility to ensure no one dies for the Council's fear. 1,000 alien officers froze. Responsibility. Not domination. Not retaliation. Responsibility. It was such a profoundly human thing to say. Behind her, the holographic projection shifted, displaying diagrams of the Aegis Initiative, vast networks of quantum filaments woven through star systems, gravitational stabilizers humming like cosmic heartbeats, and engines that manipulated space not through brute force, but through elegant, precise influence. For decades, Vale continued, we detected your surveillance. We saw your fleets amassing. We listened to your debates about containing the humans. So we did what humans always do when survival is threatened. We innovated. The council chamber, still tapped into the feed, erupted in hushed chatter. The Aegis wasn't a weapon. It was a shield, a way to ensure humanity would never again be at the mercy of a more ancient, more powerful civilization. But the next holographic sequence stunned them into silence. Human engineers, diplomats, and scientists collaborated with alien refugees, species once oppressed by the Council. Together they built the foundations of the Aegis, piece by hidden piece. You thought humanity grew in isolation, Vale said. In truth, we grew because others trusted us with their fears, their stories, their warnings. She leaned slightly closer to the camera. You declared war because you feared humanity might one day rule the galaxy. A pause, a breath. But you never stopped to consider that we never wanted to rule it. Gasps spread through the council assembly like ripples in a storm pool. The idea was unthinkable. Power willingly refused. On the immobilized flagship, Admiral Threck's voice wavered. Then, what do you want? Vale smiled again, gentle this time, not unsettling. A galaxy that stops tearing itself apart every few centuries. One where fear doesn't define policy, where strength isn't measured by who can strike first. She gestured to the space behind her. 1,000 human ships gracefully peeled away from the armada, creating a wide corridor, a gesture not of dominance, but of trust. You may return home, she said. Your vessels will be fully restored once you clear the Aegis field, and your council will receive an invitation to talks on neutral ground. Silence. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, Elder Vryn spoke. You offer peace after all this? Peace, Vale repeated, is the only victory worth claiming. For the first time in galactic history, humanity understood the meaning of its calm, knowing smile. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't threat. It was certainty that humanity was no longer the galaxy's weakest species, but its guiding one.